dismissed every accomplishment I've made. You've talked about my father. Well, you call me an entitled millennial, I call you a carny succubus, because the dirty secret about you, the dirty secret is you need this generation more than it needs
What
you.
up, y'all? It's KMB, the Sexy Ninja, in the place to be for our Paper Saber universe, and this is the New World Podcast, brother. We're talking about Dynamite, or Beach Break, whatever you want to call it. May 14th, 2025, in Riccaboni, Taz and Excalibur on commentary. No Tony. I was like, yeah, that's fine. I like Ian Riccaboni. I'll take an Ian Riccaboni, because we don't get him as much, but we're in Chicago. Chicago, baby. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, 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 boom. Yeah, we started off with an awesome match. My match of the night, personally. I'm going to get that right off the bat. Will Ospreay and Hangman Adam Page take on Takeshita and Josh Alexander. Don Callis on commentary as well. He joins them. But this was awesome. This was a back and forth battle between they're not even tag teams, two teams facing off against each other, putting on a great match. But Will Ospreay and Hangman Adam Page get the win. And of course there's an attack after. Of course there is. Because that's what they do. Ding, 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 ding. I love when I hear that bell, because I know there's something going on in the ring. Anarchy. Ding, 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 ding. We get a Mox and Joe package, because Mox and Joe are going to fight in a steel cage for the main event. I've been looking forward to that all weekend till now, and I got to see it. Then Alicia is with Top Flight. They want to face the Hurt Syndicate. They were beat up by MJF. You know, they said they're going to get their revenge. And here comes Dustin and Sammy. It says, yes, I want you to go fight. Go beat them up. Go stand up to the Hurt Syndicate and get your shots. Because we're tag team champions. And I always forget that. I forgot they're the Ring of Honor tag team champions. Then we get Ricochet versus Zach. And now I know where Zach's from. I totally spaced off last week when I talked about him on Collision. I was like, who's this Zach guy? But now that the history is there, now that my memory is really bad, but I was like, oh, Zach. Yeah, okay. But this was an entertaining match for what it was. Ricochet still had his leg. And I enjoyed this match. It was silly, but it was fun. Ricochet got his gold scissors. I think he's being a better heel than ever right now. And he still gets the win. And of course, he attacks after. Why not? He's tackling a legless, one-leg man. There's moments in this match where Ricochet's like, stand up. And there's a moment where he's about to get a figure four, but then he starts getting it, and he's like, oh, there's no other leg. And I'm like, this is why I come to AEW. But Ricochet gets the win, and of course, after the attack, Mark Briscoe comes out, and there's going to be a match set up between those two. Then we get Renee with MJF, and the Hurt Syndicate tell him, like, we have your answer, so after we go take out Top Flight, you come see us, because we need to talk to you, MJF. And the Hurt Syndicate versus Top Flight is next. Who do you think is going to win? The Hurt Syndicate. They win. Then here comes Sammy and Dustin. Here comes Crew. They're all like, we want them. We want those tag team gold, blah, 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 blah. Then they start arguing with each other, and MVP's like, yo, why is it that you two teams, Sammy, Dustin versus Crew, at Collision, whoever wins will face the Hurt Syndicate at Double or Nothing next week in Phoenix, Arizona? And they accept it, and they go on to face at Collision, and I already know the results of that, so I'm pretty interested to see how that match is going to go. But they finally get MJF. Well, the MJF's music hits. They send Benjamin back there. Tony Khan sells him out. He's like, he's right here. He's right here. And MJF pops his head out. He's like, hey, baby, what's up, buddy? What's up? Yeah. And Shelton brings him out there, and the big tease. I enjoyed this. MJF is now part of the Hurt Syndicate. He got his thumbs up from Bob. Bob gave him the thumbs up. But I got a bad feeling about this, because they say next week he's going to sign the contract to join the Hurt Syndicate, and I feel like that's where they're just going to jump him. But yeah, MJF is part of the Hurt Syndicate. We hurt people. We hurt people. But I'm interested to see where this is going, especially with the contract. And there's a little bit more MJF in the Hurt Syndicate later on. We get an awesome 4-way match. Who's going to face Toni Storm at Double or Nothing? We get Toni Storm versus Azumi versus Mina. She's here. She's back. She's got new music, and they change it back afterwards because the fans were like, what the hell is this? Versus Sky Blue. I have missed you so. I put yay by your name. I'm like, Sky Blue's back. Looking great. And this was a fun 4-way match. I was like, if this is to determine who's going to face Toni at Double or Nothing, why is Toni in this match? What does she want? Does she just face herself? Huh? But Mina got the win in a roll-up. I was like, oh! And then they go back to her old music because Toni likes to be on the interweb because everyone was like, what is this? And I was like, I kind of like that banger. Even Toni Storm was dancing in it. You know, it's that boop, dee, 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 dee. Toni's got some moves. But this ends with Mina getting the win. It's going to be Toni and Mina. And then here comes Mercedes Moné attacking Azumi. And then here comes Hayter. Hayter attacks Mercedes Moné because they have their match. And whoever wins that match is going to go on to All In July. So a lot's going on here. But man, some chaos. We get R.I.P. Sabu. This was a little bit more touching than what WWE did because they let Taz speak. And Taz and Sabu had a rivalry like no other, and, you know, you could tell that he was very hurt, and he says, I love you, brother. He was trying not to cry, but we all had our fingers in the sky for Sabu. R.I.P., man. And Taz, really touched the heartstrings there. Now we have Renee with MJF and MVP, and MJF tells MVP, like, hey, I'm going to have my lawyer look over this contract, Mark Sterling. Here comes Mark Sterling. Mark Sterling's like, hey, man, and then I was like, oh, where have you been? And MVP's like, what? Lawyers, what's going on here? And MJF's like, yo, man, you do business. You do business. I do business. I don't just sign a contract. You wouldn't just sign a contract without reading it first, right? MVP's like, oh, okay. That just sends more red flags in my head. Something's going to happen, and MJF is going to get his ass kicked, or MJF has a new group that's going to take out the Hurt Syndicate. Next week, we'll find out. We get Tony Schiavone. There he is with Nigel. They call out Daniel Garcia because Nigel wants to apologize for him interfering in Daniel Garcia's match with Dax. And Daniel Garcia comes out and tells him, like, no, you can keep your sorry. I want me and you to fight FTR. You stood up for yourself. We need to take him on. And here comes Stokely. Stokely comes out and says, FTR's not here. And he comes out and tells him, like, hey, Nigel, you know, what you did was disgraceful. It's not cool. And, you know, Daniel Garcia, you're disgusting, blah, 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 blah. And FTR jumps out under the ring and attacks Daniel Garcia and Nigel. You know this is going to happen at Daniel Garcia and Nigel versus FTR Double or Nothing. You know that's going to happen. But Daddy Magic comes out with his little crowbar. He's like, come on. Get out of here. Get out of here. The Magic Crowbar. AEW World Championship match, Steel Cage. Samoa Joe versus Mox. I did enjoy this match. I knew exactly how it was going to be. Slow, but hard hitting. There was a rope break in this match where I was like, oh, it's a steel cage. There's no rules in a steel cage. But why? But no, it was exactly what I thought was going to happen. You know, slow pace, but hard hitting, and they fight, and Moxley bleeds. Moxley always has to bleed. Of course, Mox Cult's out there. But the finish was, Hobbs is out there with Willow, and they're ringside, and this anarchy, and the Mox Cult tries to get in, but Hobbs and Swerve no. Hobbs body bags Yuta into a table, which was awesome. So, it sets up something there for a collision. But yeah, and then here comes Gabe Kidd. I was like, oh shit. And after everything went down, Gabe Kidd slides Mox his briefcase, hits Joe, gets a 1, 2, 3, bada bing, bada boom, cage goes up, the books come out, and they have a little thingamabobby in their hand, which controls the cage. But by the time they get there, to lock some people in. And here comes Kenny Omega. Kenny Omega comes out, and here comes, there's so many people that are coming out. Okada comes out, and it's just crazy anarchy. This was the big setup, because I was wondering who was going to face Mox at Double or Nothing. But no, this was all for the setup for getting anarchy in the arena. This was all, like I said, then the cage came down. They started beating up Kenny and whatnot. Here comes Swerve. Swerve does the stomp, and boom, bada bing, bada boom. Speedball's chasing. I believe he chases out Okada. And after everything's going down, Swerve clears the ring, grabs the mic, and tells him, like, hey. And everyone standing in the ring is Joe, Swerve, Willow, Hobbs, and Kenny. And Swerve tells him, like, yo, at Double or Nothing, we want some anarchy. Well, let's get anarchy in the arena. And I was like, oh, and I jumped for joy because I was like, Willow Nightingale's in the anarchy for arena match? Hell yeah. So I'm guessing the other team's going to be the Books, Mox, Marina, and Gabe Kidd, because you don't just bring a Gabe Kidd and not use him. But anarchy in the arena, a tradition here in AEW, especially at Double or Nothing, May 25th. I am excited. And that was Dynamite. Chaotic ending, but I loved it. Beach Break, May 14th, 2025. Match of the night, Will Ospreay and Hangman Adam Page versus Takeshita and Josh Alexander. Awesome. Moment of the night was Taz. Love you, man. Love you, Taz. And he's paying tribute to his homie and a legend that we lost in the business. So, and I really enjoyed the ending here. I was like, you know, as chaotic as it was, as crazy as it was, we set up anarchy in the arena, and I say, yes, boy! So I give this a solid 5 out of 5. Dynamite, great job. In Chicago, then Collision's this Saturday, then we have SmackDown. Whew, life is good. All right, y'all. Drop those comments below. Hit that like, hit that subscribe. Share it with your grandma, share the bum down at Walmart. I am KMB, the Sexy Ninja. And remember that the New World Podcast is for life. Brother.
Burton, I promise you, he was loved by his peers worldwide. I'm gonna miss you, brother. I love you.